from that moment onwards, Farage wanted revenge. I mean, this is Roman level stuff. This is the Caesars stabbing each other. From that moment, and even prior to that, when he saw the amount of popularity Rupert Lowe
Mm.
had, Nigel was plotting the demise of Rupert Lowe. Very soon, we will have Tommy Robinson out of jail.
Yes.
And the country is going to see something seismic happens when that man is released. You want to place two people side by side and work out who is the more authentic patriot, Nigel Farage or Tommy Robinson in his current state, a broken man who can't bear the sound of his own voice because he hasn't been allowed to speak. So a storm is coming. Let Nigel be the man on the beach having his little sangria because there's a tidal wave just offshore.
Katie, it is so good to have you. I know you hate Zoom, so I do really appreciate this, but I felt
Yes.
like it was an important week to have you on the show, so I'm so delighted you're here.
Ah, it's good to be back together again. You and I have had a long journey
A long and
through the
checkered history, you might say.
yeah, from very similar beginnings to where we are now, which happens to be in a kind of similar place. So, just personally, I want to say to you, I congratulate you for having the stamina and tenacity to stick at it when so many try to take you down. I think it's really admirable, and I really applaud you.
Well, I so appreciate that. I really do. And it's interesting when I look back, I almost feel like my cancellation was a couple of years behind yours. You know, you left from the Sun to the Mail in very similar circumstances to me. You were then cancelled by the Mail and LBC in very similar circumstances to what I would be on LBC and GB News. And I do want to come to that actually, because I think what's happened to the
Oh
mainstream
God.
media landscape in this country is quite something. But first,
Yeah,
Katie,
can I
it's
just I
yes,
just want to clarify there because your production crew, I'm obviously going to have to go and punch them in the face at some point for putting up those pictures at me at LBC. I just like to forget the lesbian years if we could, please. I had brain
yes, I was
surgery.
going to
Can I just
say,
say that?
there was very good reason behind the short do. But look, there is this real debate on the right this week. You have come out in favour of voting for Reform UK, even if you think Nigel Farage is a monster or a snake. In the past hour, Rupert Lowe in the Daily Telegraph is saying Britain needs a plan, not a protest. Think twice before voting reform. So why is Rupert Lowe wrong?
Rupert Lowe isn't wrong. Rupert Lowe, I think, we see it in all walks of life. I see it very often. When people are hurt or they're upset, it can be something in their private life, it can be a health matter. People need to channel that fury. I mean, you and I have been through different sorts of this. You have to channel it. And it's a question of where you channel it. I so admire Rupert Lowe. I think he's been treated despicably. But at the moment, he's possibly channeling it not in the best manner, which is to go to the Telegraph 42 minutes ago and say, don't vote reform at any costs. And actually, I've read that article and it is a little contradictory because he says vote local, and yet he keeps talking about a grand strategy for the nation. And he keeps talking about his rape squad fundraiser, which is brilliant, but that isn't a local issue. So it's a kind of mixed message. He's hurting. I feel badly for him. But I think what's important is to acknowledge that Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and others, yourself and others, have helped to drive the agenda that reform is now putting forwards. Nigel Farage has been obligated to talk about illegals because of people like you and Ben and Rupert. So there is much purpose in these other voices being out there. But I think we have to be very clear. And I made a little, this was straight off the top of my head, 10 seconds worth.
Love
I
it.
don't like Nigel because he screwed UKIP, vote reform. I don't like Nigel because he's a snake. It's true. I don't like Nigel because he sold out the Brexit Party. He did. Candidates didn't even know they were going to be screwed at the same time they were being screwed. I don't like Nigel because he treated Rupert Lowe horribly. He absolutely did, briefing the newspapers that Rupert had dementia. I don't like him because he's a maniac. He is. I've met him in person, and he has terrible teeth. He will not acknowledge Tommy Robinson. He will not. That's despicable. Tommy's being tortured. He flip-flops. He has Mohammed Youssef as his banker. Yes, he does. That should never have happened. It goes on. This was off the top of my head. All the reasons that people will say, I can't vote reform. And I agree with every single one of them. But this is not a church. This is a casino. Voting is entering the casino, and you have to game the house. You have to game the system, right? Well done, production team. Yes, that's a photo of Tommy. And at this point, we have to game together, right? And the way we game this best is by doing what you've been advising, I believe, which is hold your nose,
Yeah.
know that all these things we just discussed are true, and at the same time, vote reform.
Yeah. I'm finding it hard though, right? Genuinely hard, because I mean, Zia Yusuf actually came out and attacked me on X.
Yeah.
I've had very, very senior figures in Reform UK say to me, you are the enemy. And I find that utterly shocking and appalling, given this is a party that I voted for. And I feel like actually all I've done is provide them with the same type of coverage that is fair and has both sides of the argument. And I find it really, really weird that they are much, much more scared now of coming on a show like this than going on the British Bashing Corporation or going to speak to Woke ITV, because they know that it's that Stephen Edgington interview on GB News where he sort of cornered Nigel Farage, and that's where Nigel said mass deportations were impossible. They know that's caused a huge amount of damage. So I'm not going to say it's been an easy one for me, partly because I've just been so horrified to see the way the party has acted. Unlike you, I've never had a personal issue with Nigel. Actually, at GB News, he was a really supportive colleague of mine. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there's like a litany of other people on the right who have been treated appallingly, but this is not personal with me. It's about the country, and it's about the fact that if we have a so-called right-wing party that doesn't believe that mass deportations are impossible, then what the hell is the point? What the hell is the point?
Yeah, and I think that's so fair. And I think both you and I, we've long got past things that are personal. If we held on to things that were personal, we'd probably lock ourselves in a small room and never speak to anyone ever
Sometimes
again.
I'm tempted, Casey.
It's not a bad decision. And I was going to say, actually, at the point that Zia Yusuf and others are looking at you going, well, Dan Wootton, you are the enemy. I would totally take that if I was you. I would get naked in your bedroom. I would rub yourself in baby oil and go, yes, I, Dan Wootton, am the enemy.
That's not
because
a pretty
they're
sight. Trust me.
They're frightened of you, and they're frightened of your platform and your voice. And it's a detriment to them. I'm ex-military. And there's one thing you learn very early on at the Royal Military Academy is if you're facing the wrong way, you're going to fire at your own team, right? If you face behind you towards your team, that's a really bad idea. That's blue on blue. And that's what, unfortunately, reform, because they're kind of childish still. It's all about willy waving and the rest of it. They're facing inwards. So people like you, people like me, are actually the support they need. And instead of just holding the line with us, agreeing that we're different, we don't have to get along, we don't have to, appreciate each other's ways, but we need to face outwards because the enemy is always in front of us. And that's something that unfortunately reform will not learn, and they will keep infighting like this until the end of time.
And is it true, Katie, that they want nothing to do with you? But first, you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected. And I've been increasingly thinking of the need for personal protection from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers online. I'm delighted to tell you I have now found the fail-safe solution. But what's more, this VPN, Virtual Private Network, to use the full official term, is also a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. So I want to introduce you to Surfshark, an incredible and easy to use service that encrypts all your internet traffic, meaning your online activities stays safe so you can shop, stream, browse, and conduct your banking online in complete privacy. But what I love is that the benefits of Surfshark actually go way beyond keeping you safe online. It also allows you to access your favorite entertainment, news shows, news channels, and international streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, Peacock, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, the full works within seconds, as if you were watching from another country, which can be really handy if particular shows are geo-blocked. If you're traveling for work or on holiday, you can also get all your favorite content from home, including sports. Plus, it's an insurance policy against creeping censorship in so many countries like France, which still, to this day, is blocking Rumble. How insane is that? You can watch anything, anytime, anywhere. True freedom, which I'm all about. A VPN can also save you money in these very tight times because you can get the best deals from websites that change their prices depending on where you're buying from. There are other benefits too. You can use Surfshark on unlimited devices, meaning your entire household can stay safe with just one subscription. And with over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries, there is a world of choice at your fingertips with 24/7 customer service if this is your first time using a VPN. So go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. What's more, there's no risk here because Surfshark is so confident, and I use it every day, so I agree that it's the best VPN in the world, that you can give it a try for a full 30 days. If you're not entirely satisfied, you will get your money back. So go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. But now, back to the show.
I think that's true for the majority of people on the planet, my darling. Yeah, I mean, you know personally all the things I'm banned from all media, was banned from GB News before it was even before the inception of the show, and certainly they want nothing at all to do with me. I'm very inconvenient because of my large US following. I'm very inconvenient because of the amount of people who are kind enough to listen to what I've been saying, and that I'm inconvenient for them as well because I know their backstory. I was there at the UKIP conference when Nigel was the big guy marching on into the room, and lovely Suzanne Evans, isn't it?
Yes, great woman.
Yeah, lovely Suzanne Evans was relegated to a back room, and I was in the back room with her. We were talking about an issue, and she wasn't allowed to go onto the main stage because Nigel couldn't have anybody else contend for the limelight. So I think in some ways, because I'm such an old cretin that's been around so long, I've seen Nigel in all these guises. And let me just give you a little bit of gossip because it's fun.
Love it.
I was just over in the US for the inauguration of the
Jealous.
greatest president
Very
of all
jealous.
time. I was there for 45, I was there for 47th. And interestingly, the moment that Trump was actually being inaugurated, the moment when people were in tears at the Hay Adams Hotel, people were glued to the screens, where did I find Nigel Farage? Outside on his phone having a cigarette. And for me, do you know, and I went over and I went, all right, Nigel, and I shook his hand, I forced him, and he looked like he'd just been sicked on by my dogs.
What did he say? What did he say?
Oh, you could see, I mean, I'm sure he has a fairly tiny member anyway, but I just feel like I saw it shrink into insignificance. He died because he was like, oh, that hag, how does she follow me around? How does she know I am? But more importantly, I was able to look him in the eye because at that moment, if you're an authentic Trump supporter or you're an authentic patriot, you're glued to this historical moment where the greatest president in history takes his moment when they tried to kill him and he survived, and Nigel's still out looking at Twitter, smoking a cigarette. And that to me that tells me more than I could ever say about the man. He is a snake. But as with all politicians, you have to choose your monsters. And that's what I say. Nigel is a monster. But reform for now can give the establishment the kind of kicking we need.
Yes. Do you think, Katie, that the moment it all changed within Reform UK was when Elon Musk withdrew his support for Nigel Farage and endorsed Rupert Lowe? That was all over Tommy Robinson, of course.
Ooh.
And is something going on between Nigel and the Donald? Because there is some sort of cooling, at least it looks like. Do you think Elon has maybe in Trump's ear over this.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, really precise there. You could see it happening with Elon's increasing power within the Trump circle, which at one point there was pretty much absolute because of his unique ability to use his huge brain to solve multiple issues at the same time. I mean, it's a phenomena to see. I just love the man. Elon is very clear that Tommy Robinson is being persecuted, is a political prisoner, should be freed, and has made that very clear within the Trump top team. I've heard it said from very close allies to President Trump. And as a result, he was able to let Trump know that Farage isn't the guy that Farage had been selling in to Trump. Was very, very embarrassing for Nigel Farage to be called out like that by Elon. It was very embarrassing for the mask to slip. And from that moment onwards, Farage wanted revenge. I mean, this is Roman level stuff. This is the Caesars stabbing each other. From that moment, and even prior to that, when he saw the amount of popularity Rupert Lowe
Mm.
had, Nigel was plotting the demise of Rupert Lowe, and that's precisely what he's been able to carry out. And you can see why it's so despicable, and you can see why decent, ordinary people like us say, "I really struggle with this because we're people of principle." I would rather and have been deported rather than do
Yes.
what I'm told. I would rather be banned from a country, all of South Africa, than do what I'm told. I would rather stand and be spat on than give up what I know to be true. And that's why this really is a conundrum, because people would say, well, why would I play the system when the system's broken? But at this point, I think the casino analogy is helpful in that way.
Okay, so then what happens after Thursday then? So Friday, Nigel, let's be honest, there's going to be some type of reform quake. He's getting exactly what he wants, which is all of the attention. And critically, he's able to say two things. My centrist strategy has worked. And look, no one gives a damn about Rupert Lowe. I told you, he's just a non-entity. Everyone knows me. What happens then? Is there a
Yeah.
need for a new party? Is there any way to make reform what it needs to be?
Yeah, I think so we're going to have to endure, and it's going to be a bit gross. So have your sit bags at the ready. We're going to endure the Nigel gloat, and it's going to be big. There's going to be ha 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 pints, the ah ha ha, the smiling outrageously at everything. There's going to be multiple cigarette ah ha ha dart moments. There's going to be the Richard Tice cuddle-a-thon. We're going to have Zia Yusuf's face all over the place, which all of us could do without. Just let them have their moment, look away, have the odd gag reflex. It's perfectly entitled. However, he will believe he's won, and certainly he will have made the point that the old two-party system has now to be over. But the other very useful thing about the military is it teaches you that until you have your orders, right, until you know what you're actually supposed to be doing, you have a clear aim. We're going here, and this is the way we march. Off we go, and you start. That's what this is. Head in the direction that we need to go. We need to go in the direction of reform because we can't have the Conservatives like they are, and we can't have Labour. We cannot have Labour. But then what you do is you course correct. And that's where Ben Habib, brilliant. We need him. We need Rupert Lowe and get this rape gang inquiry underway. We need your voice. We need the people that will be course correcting with their voice, with their popularity, or actually with their authenticity. Because Nigel Farage may be able to fool many people, but what he can never, ever acquire is authenticity. And he will have to lean on other people like you, like Rupert, for that. Because you, me, Rupert are authentic. We're who we are. Love us, hate us, whatever. You're only going to get what we actually are. So that's why I say to people, you can vote reform holding your nose, because after we have a bunch of work to do. And I want to just, place this here. After and very soon, we will have Tommy Robinson out of jail.
Yes.
And the country is going to see something seismic happens when that man is released, the state of that man when he walks out of the torture chambers he's been held in should shake even his most fearsome adversaries to their core. And if you cannot come out behind that and support that man after what he's been through, then that will be, to your detriment. Farage has a much bigger foe about to be released. And this man has been made a martyr. And any time currently that we can say his name, I'm very happy to. And so Farage can gloat for 5 minutes tomorrow, but a storm is coming. And I know many, many British people and decent farmers and grafters know it. Many of us can feel it, in the energy of this country. Something is coming. I've been able to feel it for 5 years or more. It's super exciting. And personally, I'm here for it.
Hurricane Tommy is on the way, Nigel.
And Hurricane, yes, and Hurricane Great Britain. And you want to place two people side by side and work out who is the more authentic patriot, Nigel Farage or Tommy Robinson in his current state, a broken man who can't bear the sound of his own voice because he hasn't been allowed to speak. So a storm is coming. Let Nigel be the man on the beach having his little sangria, because there's a tidal wave just offshore. And I'll be here blowing the winds of that tidal wave on shore. I'm sure you will be as well. There's a great summer ahead here in the UK.
Yes, and Tommy Robinson has big plans, of course, assuming he is able to get out of Wood Hill in one piece, which is, of course, the most important thing. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.